map that, you know, is a mixed history for MIBR, but they went 6-6 against NIP on it, so they have some skills and they have some capability. So if I'm honest, based on the track record they've had across the series, like, these are two good maps for MIBR. 6-6 against FaZe on Cafe and 6-6 against Nippon Club means that they're maps they're confident and comfortable on against some of the biggest teams. At this point now, it's just back to the battle of the bans, and obviously with Consulate still on the board, I feel like it's going to be Consulate and Villagon, with a bank as the final selection, but at the same time looking for Org Surprise Me with the border ban, so who knows what they can be thinking.
I kind of have to expect the Consulate ban from Brazil, just in general, the kind of trend that they've set up, so bank should be the third pick. Yeah, there we go. And looking forward, you know, if you look at their clubhouse pick, they've had an alright run kind of inside of their Challenger League, you know, and their most recent kind of Playday week. They did play clubhouse. They won that map 7-5, so there is that kind of history that they have there that could try and give them a bit of a boost. And if you're feeling comfortable with what you've kind of played this week, you're probably going to try and follow that on, aren't you?
Yeah, well, it's the history of momentum in Siege. How much can you keep it rolling and how much kind of stumbles you? But I guess we'll find out in our first map as we jump in to the second game of the evening. Cafe Dostoyevsky.
Cafe now. LFO. Pressure's on them. I think more than anything to kind of show us what the Challenger League scene in Brazil is all about. You know, is it something that we maybe shouldn't have looked past compared to the other region, which is, you know, massive support and all the viewership that kind of comes of it, but we really don't see a lot from this region specifically. And honestly, like, if you even look at some of the Challenger League teams that came up through Latin America, you know, a team like Elevate, they won their relegation battle whenever they were in Challenger League in Season 9 and then were able to push through and into Season 10. So there is that something that LATAM does have with their Challenger League teams, being able to best Pro League teams. And really, are MIBR going to crumble against the Challenger League team? Because we know they're going to have to play against them as they are in relegations for this season.
Well, we can see now, obviously, the comparison to how this was played last time, which we saw it on Cafe between Yeah Gaming and NGTP, ended up as a 7-3 in favor of Yeah Gaming, and two of the bands of the same, Thatcher and Echo, were removed, and instead of Jackal and Castle, this time it was Maverick and Mirror. Throughout the game, it was a little bit kind of broken from the beaten course in that the diffuser went down 4 times. And that was a quarter of the total from the first Playday. So it was statistically, of all the maps, if you break it down, heavy towards the actual planting and getting in point side of things. And I guess we'll see if that gets replicated in this game now. Opening on the top floor with a Caveira pick. Going to be 6th pick off to Kaid. I was going to say kind of hints at a playstyle. Having Caveira and having Ying makes me go, this is going to be fast and this is going to be aggressive. And then they swap to the IQ and Kaid to get a bit more control and a bit more steady pace across both attack and defense. They've just kind of pulled the same trick against each other there.
Thatcher again, being banned away. Kaid should now be a very big influencer, because top floor, you think about how pesky he can be. He can sit inside a freezer and just chuck his Electro Claws as it needs to happen. And well, the thing about the freezer wall, which is a big thing that Thermite will try and pressure into, typically for this bomb site, things play out the exact same way for the attackers. You will drop in the red staircase, you will open up the first wall into Piano, and then once you've got control of Piano, you will then use your last Thermite charge to open in towards the freezer, and that creates your massive beachhead. You can push around and do whatever you need with it. Bandit, sure, is an operator that we know can deny Thermite, and kind of like is the obvious one whenever you think, oh, they don't have a Thatcher, play a Bandit, slap down the Bandit charges, and he can't really do much about that. But on this particular positioning that the Bandits have to place down on Freezer, you can shoot those Bandit charges from the skylight. So it's not the greatest thing you can do. It's basically wasting utility. It's really not difficult for anybody to go up to the rooftop and shoot the Bandit charges. So instead, Kaid, those Electro Claws placed a lot higher. You can't see that if you're on skylight.
Holding high and waiting for the push here. As we said, I think both the teams are kind of baited against what was being pulled.
You know, say debate if you want to. Don't worry. You can be a Twitch star too.
I dream of it. until I get bought out by another. And then we see them getting set up now and starting to push across the top of red. Hugsword wasting no time, trying to get this vital top control, which we often see a lot of teams using this as their kind of initial point of entry before steadily clearing their way across the entire top floor. Alpha is the one to open up the frags against Hugsword from behind, but then there's Novice to bring it back in their favor and get the trade. With the Jaeger trading for a Thermite, though, that is very good for looking for Org.
Yeah, Novice is a guy who could really aggressive and can turn on the ignition whenever he wants to and just go absolutely rampant. But really, I think I'm kind of looking more forward to see how Cyber can play, because he's been a big talking point, and perhaps, you know, some of the fall-offs that he's kind of had this season hasn't been the greatest times for him, but I think overall for MIBR, this can be kind of the beginning of a kind of new, fresh revival for them, and they can really push, because if you look at their side of the bracket, they've dodged Liquid, which is a big thing for them. You know, Liquid is kind of the obvious team who we expect to win it. You know, to get, no, not win the LAN event, but at least win it in the Latin America qualifier. There is still Team 1, who we know had a great season. You look at a player like Lukid, who has, you know, I think kind of the Wonder Kid aspect to him, and you know, those guys will play against each other if you know, both of them win, and they'll play each other in quarterfinals. But honestly, it is doable from MIBR this time around.
Well, Cyber pulls off the angle just as Maestro seemed to approach, and there is Novice getting a second for the tail. Novice even, and they're waiting for the Maestro to swing a little bit further around, holding onto the terrace as the pings go out, but BMH is not going to swing against it, just going to bury in with the big gun, hold across the floor and wait for people to push into him. And with 30 seconds and a misthrown grenade, that gets a little bit more breathing room. Going to try for the second, and it does roll out. Isn't going to cook it as aggressively as before, doesn't want to risk the play, but it looks like Novice and Cyber are going to swing either side and try and force the man down. Gridlock is going to make sure he can't escape, but BMH finds Cyber in and amongst it, as now they have to start closing aggressively. But the Maestro is doing so much work. Bullet 1 finds one, and Highs finds the trade. 2-2, and the diffuser is attempting to be planted as they spray across. Bullet finds another, and the C4 gets the man trying to plant the diffuser. The barbed wire slows, has to just stick the plant as the rotation comes around. This is the first in favor of looking for Org.
That's how we expect the top floor to go down. The attack has a great way in towards the piano area, but then the denial and the communication that can be relayed with the Maestro cameras, of course, still being up. It's massive for a lot of the defense, and you know, we've seen perfect example of that. Communication, C4 stops the plant. MIBR just lacking a little bit, you know, perhaps the rotations in towards east could have been done, you know, with more pace added to it, but it is the top floor. It's Cafe Defender sided. That top floor is a tough one to break down, and you know, I still think MIBR had good things there, but LFO especially, they just played it the way you should play it. So there's nothing really we can say too much about what Looking for Org did.
Yeah, I mean, I do appreciate how much the Maestro took an 8 in terms of time and attention. Obviously, they were really setting themselves up from 3 different angles just to get that one man out, so they felt confident getting the diffuser in and getting the diffuser down. And yes, he did only find 1 kill, but to take that much attention, to force that much rotation and force them to come to those particular positions after they've already tried entering from the far side, who knows whether that was a symptom or a response from the Thermite being the first off the board, but I guess we'll have to see if we return to the point. Going to swing down to the bottom floor now, and they're going to see if Looking for Org can replicate the success on the first. It's a timeout round, which is also quite rare to see so far. I've only seen a couple of those throughout the series so far, and I think that's the first from the Latin American region.
Attackers are heading out to defuse the bomb.
So, Looking for Org, setting up upstairs, so a couple of Valkyrie cameras, so that leads me to believe they have a theory that MIBR may be headed towards that mid floor and trying to utilize Novi's on the back. We know the Skeleton Key can rip anything apart if it is wooden and can be destructible, and they're probably going to go for that. I think MIBR are a team that will take it nice and slow and try and play as patient as they can and look for those openings. Whenever you see an operator like Gridlock there, it kind of leads me to believe that they're all about the site executions, and the way they're already setting up towards the top floor, yeah, it's going to be clear from them and then eventually in towards the mid floor. But since that Valkyrie camera that was placed there, it gives them information to try and get those C4s out and start popping them off. Whenever there is free C4 operators, Valkyrie, Kaid, and Mute, they can all try and blow them up from below.
Well, Cyber trying to get this top floor control as Bullet swings around the opposite side, doing a pincer, but might not be aware that there's two bodies here. They're slowly shepherding one, and Bullet with the quick swing against Highs. Now knows there's just one more to collapse against, who's taken the drop-down rotation and popped via Laundry, but is continually head down the stairs. They're just going to nomad that, leave that for a little bit later, and flush it to cover their retreat as the drone is quickly moving in front of them. Alpha managing to escape with his life and can slowly find his way back into this battle. In the meantime, very quick and very effective clear there from MIBR to get some control over these top floors, and you can see all of the LFO defenders now on this ground floor.
Yeah, especially whenever looking for Org, they've geared up their defense to try and defend that east side in towards the freezer if it's going to be a back push, but in reality, MIBR, they're all about the front, in towards the bakery, so those lone roamers, that kind of extension they had in towards the long bar, it's not going to help them. They need to move their resources and try and hunker down on bomb site, but it will be difficult whenever Buck is there and creating these angles, and he can hold and cover off crosses whenever the smokes and gridlocks and diffuser and everything comes into coordination. MIBR just have to be careful. There's still one man lurking in towards Coat Room, and we've seen some deadly flanks before from that scenario, and just down to MIBR to see how they want to play things slow. Still plenty of time, 4 or 5 seconds, and you have so much utility. Yeah, this should be a fairly simple round for MIBR in case anything goes wrong, and already there is a smoke has managed to land and down and kill Hogsword. Surprising from that.
Well, Novice did actually pressure the Jaeger off, but there's the diffuser down in the same place that the smoke, and now LFO find another triple kill for the smoke, holding everything down, and it is just M-King and Novice who has to do a pretty big rotate to find his way back round to the fight, but LFO doing the right thing here, holding angles, waiting for them to swing into them, and there's the Jaeger taking advantage of just that, heard the noise and brought the house down as Novice has found his way inside point to find one exit frag, but at that point didn't even get that. Cover from LFO just took them by surprise.
You can buck above that smoke. That's all I need to say. Why didn't they?
Who knows? I guess a lack of communication from what was a very quick opening from the players of MIBR to find their way across the floor. Kind of then all started to fall apart, unfortunately. Reading room is where we're going to head to next as we start, I guess, on the third point and third place, and looking for Org from winning the first down to time and pretty standard strategies, but bringing it down to the wire. And the second, I guess we'll see how this kind of if it can replicate the second even, because the second was effective. It was quick. Yes, they lost a lot of ground and a body upstairs, but from then on it seemed pretty clean in terms of keeping the control.
I already feel as if round number 3 is going to be a make or break for Made in Brazil. Just already. Because if they take this, then it will be a 2-1, gets them back in the game, gets them going again, gives them a bit of hope. But, it's a big but, if looking for Org, take this one, I really don't see MIBR getting back in the fight. I really don't. You go 3-0 up, you then have bar unlocked, you have kitchen unlocked, there's another 2 bomb sites, you know you've just won. Sure, you take a 5-1 split. 5-1 splits are difficult to come back from. Yes, sure, we've seen it from Cafe before, but at that stage, you're going to be tilted, you're going to be really off your game, you're going to feel demoralized.
Camera in position.
Well, the cameras are being set up across this top floor now, looking for Org again, extending their hold across and a little bit vertically, with Alpha digging in the place, in the cocktail place where we saw Maestro holding the very first time. In fact, no, just going to give the support to whoever is going to be the body upstairs and going to pull themselves back round. Now, previously they did have 2 on the top floor. One of them lost the life and the other rotated out, and they're duplicating that with the Lesion and Mute holding it down upstairs. So far, the SMG-11 in the hands of the Smoke was absolutely decisive in the terms of swinging the previous round to their favor. Can the replication be on this top floor and across the doubling up with RDZ and BMH? I guess we'll have to wait and see, as Alpha is going to hold down in pillars and wait for the push.
So roam game is what looking for Org will try and implement. So you have 1 guy in towards the train side and then 2 upstairs. Lesion, oh, sees the head, and Cyber walks into that. Strong position for Lesion to play because it's a very kind of maze-like scenario that he's put himself into, where you have a lot of cover, you have different entryways and walls that you can kind of collapse around, and whenever you have Legion Mines that kind of stop the approach from the attack, then it's a great position for someone of his caliber to play there. And as we know, the T5 SMG, it's great in those CQB scenarios.
Well, I like how the Legion just popped off and rotated there, got the kill, realized he didn't have to trade his life just yet, and the Valkyrie cam's going to let him know when people approach. There is the shotgun on the opposite side, and the C4 doubling up the destruction on this top floor as 2 more MIBR players suffer. Find one back in their favor against BMH, and that is all the bodies cleaned off the top floor, but with the amount that they have lost up here, this is a big uphill. They now have to try to find their way across.
Yeah, the damage has been done. That's it for MIBR for this round. There's no way they can pull this round. They don't have utility. You know, they don't have any drone economy really left, and whenever already Hogzord is on his last legs, and it is sad to see from MIBR, just a very lackluster room clear out, and I don't know if it just comes down to Cyber losing that first blood. You just seen that man in your screen. You seen him again, M King. Can you not see this man? You seen that? Am I going crazy?
I did see that, but it's whether they saw that, that's the different question, and unfortunately, well, they got seen as the bullets swing around and looking for Org take their third. Now, we are just going to quickly pop back to cameras as we've got to remake the lobby and I guess try and dissect what we've just seen on those 3 rounds.
Yeah, we've not seen a whole lot from MIBR. It was very, very sloppy, lackluster things going for them. I don't know why there isn't early droning. You know, if you're going to peek in towards Skylight, that's always a risky thing to do, because you can get killed from a lot of different ways. And, you know, you think about whenever that did happen, being able to allow a smoke to just run riot, walking down with a shotgun. Again, no drones. Where's the drones?
Yeah, it seems like the cover and balance of information is lacking. As you said before, in the second round, it was the one where they had the most efficient startup. They then just didn't clear particular areas that they knew were being held down. They knew that the smoke was in there, and the smoke managed to find 3 bodies from the same corner below a soft roof, where they had vertical control. They had all of that ground, and they could have utilized it, but they just didn't.
Yeah, that's the big one. If you're going upstairs as a buck, where there was a good, minute 30 by the time he started getting in there, that's tons of time. You only need, a set amount of time to finally make your execute, and typically it takes like 10 seconds at most. Really sloppy stuff from MIBR, and even if you look at the first round, I wouldn't say it was badly played by them. It was just expected from the defense and kind of what they have going for them with the information that Maestro cameras can kind of contain. And I kind of like the positioning of the Maestro camera that LFO kind of set up, because typically we see it on, like the pillars, one of the pillars beside the bomb chassis right under the skylight. That can be Sophia or Ash charged from inside the cigar shop. The one they place on the wall is more difficult, because that turns its back to the defenders, and unless you want to expose yourself in towards Nubat to get rid of it, it is a tough one to deal with.
Well, so far in terms of comparing the Pro League teams in LATAM that we've seen when they've gone up against other teams, I think this is the weakest the Pro League team has looked.
Yeah, this is the surprise.
Yeah, obviously we saw Liquid make pretty quick work of their opponents, and yeah, Gaming, who were the first ranked CL team, again had some very quick games, 7-3 and 7-4. And then it was Ints who, again, 7-3 and 7-2. So we've not seen a Pro League team, especially be on this much of a back foot this quickly, kind of be looking this shaky, really.
Nerves? I don't think so. They're an experienced team who have played on the biggest stage, for goodness sake. We do not expect this from this team, but maybe it's just the follow-up, and it's kind of the bad season they've had has followed them through to this competition, which it's really bad news for them, and they need to get that out of their system as quick as they can, or else we could see the first big upset already inside this Latin America bracket.
Well, that's the thing. Obviously, you compare how they were in the previous time. Now, it was a slightly different set of rosters. If we look at the kind of performances, obviously, Cyber and Novice, when they were in the previous OGA, were under Immortals banner, but it was in Liquid, and M King was in Boot Camp.
I'm not really looking at the last OGA. I'm looking at their recent experiences as LANs. They were at Rally not too long ago. They were there as a full 5. They have so much experience. And you can't even say, oh, but maybe they're a LAN team. They're not even a LAN team. They haven't even made quarterfinals in a LAN. Got knocked out first against G2 at Rio. what more can we really say?
That we hope that they play a bit better, unfortunately, and it's one of those hard balances because, as we've already said, Cafe is a map that they have performed on before. The fact that they can bring FaZe to a 6-6 here, you know, you look at how close, obviously FaZe were the second seed in Latin American Pro League, but it was by 1 point or 2 points. It was the difference of a win, and you know, you think that you're struggling on this map against a team that has struggled in throughout the Challenger League, and most of this roster, I think there's been like 2 changes between this roster and the Challenger League version of Looking for Org Brazil. You just kind of think they need to get themselves back into a better headspace, need to find this gear again that they found against FaZe, because 6-6ing FaZe on a map is exceptional across the board.
But then again, draws don't win you the matches, and well, MIBR, you need to start winning those, and not even winning matches, win some rounds, please.
Well, Bar and Cocktail will head back round to the perfect 3 is a perfect opening for LFO BR. I guess we'll see if they can continue the roll. Now, obviously, the first time we saw this point, I said I'm excited to see it for the second time because Hugzord, the Thermite, with the Diffuser, went down first. Went down almost instantly. The trade was against a Jaeger, but at that point, the damage had been done. We saw them have to try and shuffle around to get a plan B and push from the eastern side instead of the west, and that's not easy in anyone's books. It still came close, came down to the wire, and it was the only time they looked almost like they were going to take the round. So I guess we'll see if they can keep A, protect Mr. President, keep Thermite alive just a little bit longer. B, maybe that's why, you know, well, they've bought the Nomad and they bought the Gridlock intermittently before, so maybe they're just going to try and get a bit more control. C, maybe the strategy will work this time round. The one change here, obviously, is now that Kaid charges have been electrified, and unless they get underneath with that buck, there's going to be no real way to remove them.
Well, Gridlock is pretty standard for the top floor bar. Has great smoke positionings that you can, of course, utilize, and there's not a whole lot of operators with that gadget. Sure, there's, you know, the Jackal can bring them, and who's another common operator, but I just kind of think that Gridlock adds a little bit more to Cafe especially. Yes, there's roam game, but for a top floor, really your mid floor and bottom floor roamers don't exist, and even if they do, they're not that much of an important factor. Yes, sure, there's the nitro cells that we hark on about, but a simple drone can deal with that. It's not a big issue. And just, you know, being able to cover off a lot of main entryways, and it's great in combination with Nomad. You ever been flung into track stingers before?
No,
it's not fun. It's as if you fell back on a bed of nails.
Oh, that's not what anyone wants to fall back on, and yet again, no one wants this to happen instantly. The Buck and the Nomad are taken out of the equation by some quick work by the defenders. Happy to bask in the aggression that has been so good so far. Alpha pushing up the top of the white stairs to find bodies, with BMH doubling over the shoulder. Now the pre-fires are coming against where Maestro was, and they're going to open a sight line all the way through to Cigar with the big gun and make any ankles uncomfortable anywhere close. And Gridlock is just looking for something, but I think you'd have to be a fool at this point to try and peek aggressively against that. Force them to come to you, and you will find the frags as you have done. Yes, MIBR have been able to get 1 or 2 of the trades, and they're looking for the electronics from underneath, as we said they would have to do, but now it is Zafia's job. And, well, Buck is unfortunately just going to have to watch cameras and try and guide.
So, looking for Org in a great position. They've lost nobody. Nobody's even took any damage. There's still tons of utility. Nitro cells. They still, of course, have Maestro cameras. I think there's one more lurking around. And even you have the smoke canisters, which have yet to be popped around, which is the big worry now for MIBR. And just starting to get wallbanged. There's nothing going for them. And, whoa, that's a really long, deep angle. A bullet hole? No. I think it was just standard. Not even a bullet hole. Just standardly making the opening. And that shows the destructibility that Cafe kind of provides. And now for MIBR, they try and push in. But here comes all the utility to collapse, and Hugzord does get 1, and perhaps Cyber could try to add on to that. But as it goes, they're a bit of a standstill. More toxic clouds being tossed in. There's the Mute, who does get refragged, but he's already done the kill that he needed to get. And, well, there's long angle again by Maestro being fired on in. Cyber tosses a couple of stun grenades in, and still alive, however. But there we go, finally. Looking for Org. 4-0. Against the massive team that is MIBR.
Looking for Orc, you've got to give credit to them. Their strategies are solid, their strategies are sound, and you know, this is again MIBR's map pick. So LFO have kind of come here with really good ideas, and it's working out pretty brilliantly for them so far. And you know, yes, MIBR aren't really playing up to the potential that we've seen as individuals and as a kind of team. They've done much more work than this against Biggers, but so far you've just not really seen any life from them. As soon as stuff starts to kind of go the wrong way, it just seems like they're still throwing themselves at it.
The biggest worry for attacking teams is if things don't go your way and you lose like the first blood, you just stop. Everybody stops and holds an angle because they're scared in case somebody else peeks. We see that from inexperienced teams. You know, tier 3, and extent tier 2, they kind of suffer from that. We should never, ever expect that from a tier 1 team. And maybe that's perhaps why they're up for relegations and they could get relegated in the Challenge League this season.
I mean, if we compare how they played to who are the top-ranked team in the relegations from Brazil, who we've already seen in the tournament. We saw them against, if I quickly swing through my stats, we saw them against NGDP. And they played on Cafe. And they played on Cafe pretty convincingly. They won it at a 7-3. They took rounds both on their attacks and on their defenses. And their attacks were continual wins. They managed to completely lock down their attacks. And it was exciting play. It was well formulated, well structured. And if they went up against the MIBR that we're seeing right now,
oh, there'll be game instead of MIBR in Pro League.
Yeah. And you just kind of, you want MIBR to wake up a little bit. As we said, everybody in chat, everybody who knows at least the littlest bit about the Latin American region is familiar with the players from MIBR's roster. We've seen them on grand stages.
At so many events. We should know what they're capable of. Yes, they haven't had, you know, the greatest results whenever it comes to their LAN experience. But their online was one thing that always backed them up. They were always consistently able, for I think it must have been for at least 2 seasons in a row, we're always at every big event. So why is this time any different?
Well, Cyber's going for the roam clear. It looks like, again, they're still doing the same steady work that they've tried in previous rounds. At this point, I guess I hope they get a bit more pace behind them as well, and they look for maybe more bodies or more blood before they find their way all the way down. But we got to recall that last time LFO had 2 people on the top floor. One of them suffered a fate, and then from that point onwards, it all started to unravel, unfortunately. So they were off to a good start previously, MIBR. At this point, it looks like LFO have actually dropped themselves down to a completely solid hold on the ground floor. They've got BMH playing a bit aggressively on those back stairs. They've got highs in the bar in the middle. But otherwise, there's no one really directly on the floors above. And this is when you want that Buck to do the work that we asked of him previously. Make them uncomfortable inside the point. Push out the smoke that was such a devastating force previously.
And he's missing that position. Again, he's not bucking that same position that his team got killed from. There we go. Finally, you're trying to put a bit of pressure onto it. And still, it's not the actual position. You still need, over there. You're on top of it. He's missed it. There you go, because you can even see him even from where he is right now. You can even toss the nade at the smoke. Just kill him.
Well, they're still fishing, and they're going to use the nade, but did that get... No, it didn't get taken by the electric on the wall. Drops the mute charges, drops the Kaid, managed to get a bit more control now. The smoke throws one out. They're going to cook the grenade and bounce it round, but no dice. Just misses out on the catching the rotate below, but here comes all the hard destruction. Novus finds the opening frag against BMH. The mute is off the table, but there's still a lot of guns left on the point, and there is the smoke that was such a problem before, is such a problem again. Hopefully MIBR don't suffer the same nightmares from the previous attack here. Trying to find their way inside the building, but with less than 10 seconds, they've got to find it fast, and there's the cross peak instantly dropping them down. Nomad finds a way through, but here is kill after kill after kill in the favor of LFO, and Buck is nowhere near.
Where's the smoke grenades from the gridlock in all of this? Where is that specific utility to try and mask the plant? Where is it? You're not pressuring the man inside of coat room. You're not pressuring anything. I don't get it from MIBR. I don't get it one bit.
The thing is, so far we're obviously sitting on a 5-0. It does look like it's heading to a 7-0, but it's a very different vibe to the previous 7-0.
It's more of a disappointment because we didn't expect really, anything from LANCY'S in the Elevate matchup. We didn't expect that from them. This is MIBR, and yes, you may be thinking, why do we keep saying it's MIBR? Yes, because they're MIBR. They're a massive team with the massive... Like, a lot of people don't realize how big of an organization MIBR is. Used to be Immortals, now they're MIBR, a massive organization in the world of esports. And it's the same effect that we kind of seen from, like, even North America. You think about a team like CLG, Counter Logic Gaming, massive in other esports. You look at even Team Secret in our Challenger League in the EU, a massive organization, yet they went in Challenger League. We don't expect this from big orgs. We really don't.
Especially ones with history, but 5-0, we're looking down the barrel of the 6-0 here. Again, MIBR have generally bought the exact same lineup pretty consistently. Here's maybe the first change we've seen, and it's Cyber dropping Sapphire and bringing the Ash instead. Going to opt for something a bit quicker and a bit more aggressive, and I guess hope to find some bodies. Kudos so far again, and I'm going to double down on this, to Looking for Org. They've known the strategies they want to play, and they've played them very comfortably. Even when everything is starting to swing their favor, they haven't over-rotated. They haven't thrown themselves into the gauntlet, which a lot of other teams have kind of been the victim to. When you get a little bit too confident, that's when things start going wrong. Buck takes the drop down, keeps rotating, as obviously yet again we're seeing them with a bit of a hold upstairs. Legion and Mute, the pairing that was pretty successful previously, is unfortunately being shut down much quicker. M-King finds one, and Miracle at least gets the trade. Whether they're going to rotate off now, it's actually Alpha that has taken off first. Who's otherwise been a pretty good piece of the defense. I guess not. It seems like Miracle, then BMH just going to rotate backwards to White Stairs and hold it with a little bit more passive energy than the aggression of hiding right under the drop downs.
Looking for Org, keeping MIBR at bay, and of course this is a mid-floor, so sure, MIBR, they have control of the, well, not total control of the top, but half of it. Still doesn't matter. You need to try and start setting up. You've lost your buck, more importantly, which is what MIBR have revolved around, is having that soft destruction. There is still potential whenever they do bring a Gridlock who has that sidearm, but there's still people to try and find. And hey, even pre-play C4s to assist these roamers, that's great outside of the box thinking from Looking for Org, which a lot of teams kind of pass up the fact that you can relay information with pre-play C4s just by the roamers knowing exactly where they're getting pressured from.
Yeah, it's good that they're kind of luring them. I think that's a really, really good play style. They're just bringing them into their traps, bring them into their defenses, and MIBR are consistently falling for it. Miracle looks for a fight in there, doesn't opt to rotate, and is just going to suffer the cost as they also find RDZ in the meantime. BMH on an exceptionally low amount of health, but it's just going to hold on and wait in a close quarters with the shotgun and see if he can catch one, maybe two before they drop. But when there's only two people left, this is again the best MIBR have looked, because they also have a minute and then knocking on the point door with people above and below, but no one directly there. You've got to start doing something, and unfortunately this stairway is closed, Valkyrie. Not only by the tracks, but the gun watching you from above, waiting.
Oh, but now it's opened up, but there is still track stingers, and honestly, because they haven't eliminated the Mute, he can try and stop this from above. Oh, but he misses the shots, and now Valkyrie tries to peek up and does get one. Nomad sends it flying, but nobody there from the attack to collapse on it. Diffuser being planted by Hogsword in a 1v2 now, and this is winnable for Looking for Org. Well, didn't really move on it, so perhaps it's not, since Diffuse has been stuck. Now all the pressure onto the Valk. Both angles being held, one in towards pillars, and of course one towards the other side of the bomb site. Track stingers in towards the fireplace, and yeah, I think because these track stingers are here, it should alert the position, and yes it will, and now they know exactly where to look. But we've seen wilder things happen before. Quick long peek around, and there's Fermi, and finally, MIBR, they get their first round in this match, but perhaps too late.
Almost an exceptional play from the top floor there. Really almost pulled it back in. If they'd have pulled away after getting the first frag, that might have been a completely different story. Instead, they tried to stick it out and go for the fight, which, to be fair, if it had worked, would have been a brilliant play in its own right. But when there's only about 20 seconds left, 25 seconds, and we've seen MIBR struggle in the dying throws, you know, it could have swung the other way potentially. Now, obviously, we're looking at the 5-1 situation. MIBR get a little bit of momentum their way before they swap to their defensive, and that might help them. Because obviously, what we've seen from LFO has been very well put together defenses, where they've been able to waste a huge amount of time, they've been able to pull back convincingly. As you've seen, pre-placed C4s, cover on the roam, and the fallback strategy worked wonders. Can they replicate that on their attacks?
The attacks are going to be a different story. Defense on Cafe have a generically easier time. Kaid, of course, being picked up as Thatcher is banned, and we know that's a great operator to stop those electro claws, but since Thatcher's not there, he's taking holiday. Kai just becomes a lot more of a filthier pickup for many, many teams throughout the course of this tournament. And really kind of has defined a new meta is this Thatcher ban. And I just feel because we're seeing such a massive influx of Thatcher ban, it just reinforces the fact that we need another operator who can deal with, you know, electronic gadgets that isn't in the form of a Thatcher or some, you know, little drone which can be very easily dealt with.
Do you know what's worth saying as well? We've just passed the 2-hour mark of the stream. So this is when the other game would have otherwise finished.
Yeah, generically, and that's not even including the third map as well.
Yeah, so, and we're sitting on a 5-1. Just to keep everyone aware of how quick LATAM is. EU would have still been in the first map.
Prep phase.
Yeah, it would have. It wouldn't have left. Everyone's holding angles. Cyber. This is a player that we kind of harped on about a little bit at the beginning about the caliber and capability he's had, and so far hasn't been able to show it. Dropped onto the Jaeger and allowing himself to free roam and try and find some bodies. Hopefully, we'll be able to see something more traditional of a player of that caliber. Again, but you can also say that about a lot of them. Hugzord already instantly suffering amount of damage, trying to hold on to the back of the freezer point and just locked away inside the rotation and forced back against it. And, you know, that's good play from the Capital bot, but that's obviously one of the arrows down, which can be a big piece of utility later on down the line. I do like that Capital's been bought because it offers you a bit of kind of, with the amount of windows on this top floor and amount of angles that we've already seen, people being played just out of view, it allows you to force. Obviously, if you think back to the very first round and we saw 3 of them try and close down on a Maestro, if one of them had been a Capital, all he'd have to do is fire a bolt near enough and it would either force the Maestro to die or to rotate into the firing line of the others.
It makes the defenders a lot more uncomfortable, and Capital is like the ultimate clearing tool for that freezer specifically. If you just fire that in deep, you don't have to worry about anybody who could try and deny your plant. And as we know, that freezer is a blind spot for many of attackers trying to walk in and go for the plant. It's a very easy, quick peek position for the defenders. And Bullet, ready, up close and personal, has the diffuser. I'll be curious to see if he wants to try and rotate below and utilize this information. It is being fed out by the Maestro camera still. Looking forward, should be able to take care of him. They bring the Sophia for a reason, and it should be to get rid of specifically those cameras. We know Maestro is a big part in this top floor. Typically, if he's banned away, then Echo becomes the more nuisance of an operator. Cyber below, as the Jaeger, I don't really think it's going to have that much of an impact. He should start looking for a rotate, but it is going to be difficult whenever Nomad's up, and there has to be a Nomad charge ready on the flank for Red Stairs.
Wow, 35 seconds left. They have the default plant wall open. They're trying to just find a body with the wide swings, and the amount of utility they've thrown and not been able to show anything for it is kind of worrying. You can see the fight happening on the ground floor at the same time as them pushing and trying to get the plant across this open lobby. They're really trying to draw all of MIBR's attention, and with the diffuser somehow down and all the operators still up, the first bodies finally hit the floor. MIBR suffering a huge amount of damage and 1 loss in it, but the Thermite has done his work. He can pass the afterlife happy. At this point, they need to find a way to reclaim, and with the diffuser that close to that big skylight, it becomes a tough ask. Miracle finding a second as he gets both Bullet and Hugzord, and now it's just Cyber and M-King. As you said, too late to rotate. Cyber hasn't been able to have the impact that he needed to earlier on. There's the angle held, and there's the third for the Buck, just lying down and waiting. Big gun. Too much time and too much to ask as this diffuser ticks on, and LFO put themselves on match point.
Yeah. That's a stickler for MIBR, because you should not be giving LFO that much control. That's a stupid amount of control that you're giving them. You gave them piano without anybody touching it. You had roamers downstairs who weren't gonna really have that much of an impact whenever Nomad, we know, has kind of made it through the ban phase, and Jaeger doesn't have a C4. Sure, we've seen a Kaid creeping about down there, but honestly, that was the big thing that I think a lot of people missed. It wasn't the perfect execute. You know, it's pretty easy to get the smokes down and go for the plant. That's what we kind of expected MIBR to go for, but they never did. It's the fact that they place somebody below because they know how much of an impact nitro cells have. We've seen Kaid creeping around downstairs specifically to uproot the plant. That was brilliant from Looking Forward. They know they have the man advantage. You know, they knew that Piano was so easy to take, they can put somebody downstairs. All you need is one guy planting, 3 guys covering. It's really simple to kind of play out these attacks. That's why we say Cafe top floor. It's great for defenders because there's a lot of things going for them. The way they can hold Piano, the nitro cells from below, and Maestro cameras are great. But the attack is very, very simple. And that just kind of reinforces that point.
Wow. That is match point now for Looking for Org. We're heading back upstairs to the bar. That was 10 bodies alive when the diffuser went down, the only time that's happened. LATAM continuing to set trends and records on this playday so far. That's just another one to add to a very long list. MIBR taking the same loadout, hopefully going to be a little bit more active in it, as Cyber is now on the ground floor looking for any immediate entry bodies, but it seems like Looking for Org BR are going to do the same thing they did previously. They still have, obviously, Nomad to cover those big rotations and quick movements, but there's also a Novus as well who's being a bit more active too, hiding underneath the drop down on red stairs, seeing if they can catch someone on the jump in instead of waiting until the very end. Cyber had prepped runouts but knows it's being watched well, has the I guess sense to realize it's probably being watched and hasn't taken it yet, as RDZ is just going to watch and wait for the mistake to be made. The Buck that was a big force previously is taking control of Piano, but there is the opening frag. RDZ takes care of the run out from Jaeger, and the other Roma is suffering too. 25 health. Thermite is still alive and kicking, but he needs to do his work fast.
You can see the MIBR have gave Looking for Org way too much. Generically, you drop Red Hatch as a Thermite, you open up the Piano, because generally there's roamers in there. The reason why you put roamers in Piano is to force the attack to use utility, use Thermite charges. You've just gave this man 2 charges still to go with. You still have gave him so much control. Sure, there's a Kaid, Electroclaw there. And the next step for LFO is they're going to have to try and overcome that Electroclaw and get rid of that. Don't really know how they're going to go for it. Nade bounce perhaps could be an option for them. They could just simply push down white and try and take attack control. They could rotate somebody towards white window to give a bit of coverage in towards, you know, the quick peek beside the construction pallets. But other than that, it could still be tricky here for Looking for Org. Maybe they might just bypass it and just walk straight into the bomb site, which is kind of what they're eyeing up with Thermite being positioned so close to Cigar Shop.
I'm curious where Alpha used both of his standard smoke, and you can see that Miracle is looking for a way to try and drop Bullet inside, but is suffering huge amounts of damage, and this is them trying to, as you said, they've hit a bit of a roadblock here. They need to find a way through, and the utility is bouncing back both ways, and with that so close, they just need to get a little bit more semblance of control. Gonna try and force the Maestro over to his side, and there come the tax smokes as they find their way through. Gonna try and stick the plant just inside the door and hold it with all the noise, trying to cover it. The bullets are flying over, and for the second time, BMH gets this diffuser down and finds a frag on the way out as well, saving the life of a teammate. Hugzord hits the floor, but look at all the bodies crawling around in the side of Looking for Org right now.
Doesn't matter. The control from the skylight should be enough to send this home for LFO, and well, there's even more bodies being added onto it, and M-King hasn't moved an inch. He has been ineffective as the Maestro. If you're playing SLMG, start using it. Start using that gun, and LFO, they decimate and tear MIBR limb from limb. Look, no way have we just seen a Pro League team get handed a mighty scoreline defeat.
Looking for Org, a fantastic way to say we are playing in this. And we talk about teams that have showings outside of the leagues and showings when they push towards majors and minors, and this is one that is making their mark. Let's see if they can keep it up in the second map. We will see you after a couple of adverts.
stunning! They are the champions!
Probably certain that they'll win the rest of the game as well. To be fit by games, I think that they should just go for it.
Predict the outcome, win the game. Get live coverage and schedules for your favorite tournaments. Analyze, predict, and vote to gain points. Compete with other esports fans and climb the leaderboards. Strafe, everything esports. Download now on iOS and Android.